Hi there, I'm Jason Monroe with BitWizards. I'm the Director of Solution Consulting here, and to my left,
I'm Sam. I'm the Director of IT here at BitWizards. Today, we have a very exciting webinar for you. Today, we're talking about harnessing the power of the cloud. You've heard the term the cloud a lot, and you may have some questions and misgivings about what it can and can't do. You might have some concerns about security involving the cloud, but maybe before we even start talking about how you can harness the cloud, the best question might be, what is a cloud? Are we talking about a specific type of cloud? Are we talking rainbow clouds? Or are we talking about thunderstorms or cumulonimbus? What's the best kind of cloud to harness, Jason?
wow, that's a nice cloud drop there.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. So, the most simplest definition I can give for the cloud is just somebody else's computer, okay? It's not this magical web that we throw information out into and it just goes and lives somewhere. It's actually someone else's computer that you're paying for or you're giving some sort of return or information to actually use. So let's say you use Google Drive or Office OneDrive. Those devices are actually in their data center. They are paying to keep those devices up and running. They're their computers, they're maintaining them, and you're just accessing them. So the simplest way to explain it is the cloud is someone else's computer.
And we connect to those computers that are in the cloud through the internet. And I think that's why it might be a little bit confusing sometimes, because we're talking about the cloud, and then we're saying, but isn't that just the internet? And where does the World Wide Web fall into all of this conversation? And I will tell you, back in the day, right? We used to draw out diagrams on a whiteboard with the computers and the servers. And anytime we needed to indicate that, like, well, this server at this location is going to be connected to this one all the way over here.
Little cloud.
We draw a little cloud in the middle, right?
Like, we don't know what's going on there, but you know, it's going somewhere.
So that's where the term cloud computing comes from, because it is where we're accessing other people's computers and servers over the internet to utilize those resources to better prosper our own businesses, but also to make our systems more efficient as well, correct?
Right. So in the cloud, really, it's a term that can be used for anything. I mean, it doesn't exactly have to be a server, although it is a server, but a lot of the times people, I'm going to throw it in the cloud. I'm going to use a cloud drive. I'm going to put my video in the cloud here. Kind of like we're doing today. We're putting this video in the cloud.
Yes.
Okay, and that's where it's going to live. But it's actually living on a server that you're accessing through the internet to watch.
So the alternative to that, before the cloud was a thing, would be that you would have had to have gotten an email from us where you would have downloaded a video, or we'd have mailed you a video so you could watch this on a CD-ROM. I used to do those, man. In fact, I think I still have like 500 hours of free AOL somewhere at home.
Do you?
On a
I wonder
CD-ROM.
if it still works.
We'll have to put it in the cloud and see.
Do you have a CD-ROM drive?
No, I don't. So then really what we talk about is any service that we're using over the internet that is not on our own computers, then we are technically using cloud services. What are examples of cloud services people may be using that they may not even be aware that they're using?
Well, the most obvious one, because we've moved away from on-site email servers a long time ago. So if you use something like Microsoft Outlook or Outlook.com or Gmail or any of those email services or Exchange.
Do you remember Hotmail?
Oh yeah, Hotmail's still a thing.
Yeah. That was one of the first cloud email services.
It's a cloud email, because think about it. It's not actually living on your computer. When you go to the website and you look at it, you go, oh, I've got a new email. Congratulations. Or you might know you've got mail.
Yep.
You know,
the AOL days.
From your AOL.
Yeah, from my
CDs. Yeah, absolutely. But it's email that's living on someone else's server that you're accessing, you're utilizing through the internet. Technically, it could be considered cloud.
Well, then another one would be, if that's how we communicate, then maybe a big one on how we've started using the cloud a lot more is in how we store our documents. So you may be familiar with services like Dropbox or Google Drive or OneDrive. It used to be called SkyDrive from Microsoft. Apple has their own one. They call it iCloud. But there's lots of these different places where you can store your files. And what's great about it is if you have that app on your phone or on your other computer somewhere, you have access to all those same files because they're stored in the cloud, correct?
And another one that we don't think about very often is voice over IP or VoIP phone services. Because, no longer are the days where you had to have a phone line plugged directly into a phone that sat on your desk so it would ring and it would go through a trunk all the way back to the phone. No, that's all running over the cloud now.
And it feels like, wow, technology's really come a long way, right? That all this stuff, it used to take, so like we used to have a room in the building full of servers and equipment and phone exchanges and blah, blah, blah. Truth is, it hasn't changed. It's just moved to a different location.
Right.
I just don't have to have all of that stuff at my building anymore, and I don't have to worry about my phone system. And is it still gonna be working if we have a storm, or how is that gonna work? Because let's say I use Microsoft's VoIP system they have built into Office 365 through their Teams service. You can purchase licensing so that all of your phones can go through Microsoft Teams.
Right.
So then you're saying that the servers, the phone system servers that are going to be doing all of that are still there. They're just on Microsoft's side.
They're just somewhere else. And the reason why that we've moved those servers outside of the business is, well, the speed of the internet has gotten faster and faster, and the latency, the actual delay between that communication has gotten shorter and shorter and smaller. So speeds go up, latency goes down. Now we don't need those servers right in our back room generating heat, burning up our electricity. We're paying someone else to do that for us, and we're just accessing it through high-speed internet.
And so then there's more than just the cost of the usage, but then it's also the upfront cost you're going to have to spend to buy a phone system, correct? That's got to account for a large part of that. That if instead of me building this from scratch or finding somebody who already, instead I can just look around and see who has a cloud service that I can just give them a little bit of money every month and just use as much or as little as I need of their service.
Absolutely. Correct? Scalability is great. Like if you, let's say 15 years ago, 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago, you had a server sitting there and it was your VoIP server, or it was your cloud drive, or excuse me, not your cloud drive, your on-site document storage server.
Yeah.
And it reached its max capacity for users or hard drive capacity. You had to turn it off, install a new hard drive, or upgrade the service, and you're having to take that thing down for hours while it's being upgraded, or replace it at a very expensive cost. Nowadays, it's just you go to that service and you slide a bar, and it increases your power capacity, all those things.
Yes, rather than having to go out
Instantly.
and buy all new hardware to replace it.
Yep.
You tweak a couple of settings and now you've doubled the amount of memory available or storage, right?
Correct. Another item that people don't really think about is sometimes they have to have a specific server on property.
Okay.
Okay. So let's say you run a specific software. Sage is a good example of this.
Oh, for like finance.
For
tracking.
finance,
okay,
things like that. And you have a Sage server that lives in your office. Well, you don't really need that server anymore. What we can actually do with the cloud for businesses is take that server and virtualize that server in a service like Azure.
Yes.
Okay, Azure is Microsoft's cloud servers. So we can virtualize that server. You're able to access that server wherever you are, and we'll get into the benefits of what that actually looks like. But that's another business application that businesses are migrating to.
So I know a lot of businesses that have to have that one computer on the network because it is running QuickBooks or it's running Sage or Great Plains or whatever it is, and they have that one machine. And if it goes down on the weekend, you got to send somebody into the office to turn it back on again.
Right.
Otherwise, the CEO can't check the figures he needs to check for that week's sales or whatever that is.
Right.
We've run into that actually quite a lot. So is that a thing that is also being able to move to the cloud, or even what about those like very specific business applications? I was just at Harbor Freight yesterday, and the lady there that was checking me out was complaining about Chameleon, the system that they use to keep track of their inventory and then to look up to see if they had a part. And yet I was at Ace Hardware also, and they were complaining because they use a different program called Epicor, which I know is also on servers, but I think could also be in the cloud. Is that correct?
It could be either one. Or there's even hybrids where you can have a cloud or a server at your location, and then it's backing up somewhere to the cloud. So there's a lot of different ways, a lot of different variations that the cloud can be used for business.
Okay, so whatever the software is you're using that's keeping track of your inventory or your service calls or your technicians who are going out or whatever it is that you do, there's a good chance that that software, there's a cloud version of it, or that it could be moved to the cloud to harness the power of the cloud for you. Let me ask you this, though. Why would somebody want to do that? Because it seems like I'm giving up a lot, right? That if I have my own phone system, I know if it goes down, well, that's on me, right?
Yep.
Or if I'm running my own email, then I know that I can always be in charge of where it is.
Sure. So the benefits of the cloud really do outweigh the cons of or the pros of having an on-site server. Now, some people like that physical device that they can hold on to. They're like, oh, this is mine and it is mine and I know I have it and I can control it and keep it. But the reality of the situation is that hardware is eventually going to die.
Yes.
Okay.
A lot sooner than you think, usually.
Right. Or it's going to break down, okay? You're going to lose electricity or you're going to lose internet one day and you're not going to be able to work. And that's a bad day. You know, you have to really consider what does a day like that cost my business?
Yeah.
The benefits of the cloud are it's always on. It's always there. There are multiple points of failure that they've thought about. So there's multiple internet providers, there's backup generators. If something catastrophic happened, it would continue to run. And
so it's that availability that you get as a guarantee.
it's the availability. Even if that, let's say you had a West Coast server and there was an earthquake and the whole place was demolished.
Yeah.
A lot of the servers are backed up to an East Coast server as well on the cloud side. So it just kicks over to the East Coast. You might notice a couple seconds of a connection being down, but it's still going to back up and kick over to the other server, other site. But it's always available. It's secure. It's updated.
But so we're saying that if I had this as a server in my building and I'm managing it, all the things that could go wrong, I could lose power, we could lose internet connectivity, we could have a flood. We had a client that had the water, the hydrant out front burst and flooded their entire building, and of course all of their servers were on racks on the ground. So all of those things, you're saying, all the points of failure have already been thought about in the cloud. And so if we go with somebody who is in the cloud, then that's one less thing for us to have to worry about, is that things could fail or that we wouldn't be able to have access to those things.
Correct. Right? And especially with disaster recovery plans as well.
Okay.
I mean, being able to get your employees out of an area that is experiencing a disaster and still being able to work, all they've got to do is find a Starbucks with Wi-Fi and they can go back to work.
But if it's on somebody else's server, right? We're saying the cloud isn't really a thing. It's just somebody else's computer on the other end of an internet connection from me. How do I know, though, that there isn't somebody else looking at all of my stuff? How do I know there isn't somebody else messing with my inventory numbers if it's not even on a computer I have access to?
Sure. So there are security policies, procedures in place. These companies are in business to keep your data secure. Now, at the same time, if you're, and we've done a webinar, I think we've done a webinar on this as well. If you're using a free service, a free cloud, like a Cloud Drive, Google Drive, something like that, well, yeah, they're probably going to be looking at what you've got there.
You don't know. You'd have to read all that fine print, right? In that thing that you always hit, I agree, fine.
Right. But if you're paying Office 365, their business model is to keep you operational, okay? To have secure access to your cloud. So they're not looking at it, but they do have policies and procedures in place to keep your data secure.
Okay.
To ensure that there isn't intrusion.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I've even been to one of these places out in Seattle where walked in, you had to go through a metal detector. There was an armed guard sitting there. Everything's in secure cages, everything like that. You can't touch the cage. You have an armed guard walking with you. They take precaution.
Okay. More so than probably we would be able to in our businesses, correct?
Anywhere, unless you're working on base and you've got a room where you can afford to have a security guard sit there 24/7, they're doing all the right things.
Well, and of course, I always worry about the security side of things, but then To me, I think one of the biggest reasons why you would want to harness the cloud is your ability to change size on the fly.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know we work with tax firms, and of course, at a certain time of the year, they get very, very, very busy. In fact, a lot of the firms we work with will have a closet full of laptops that just stays dormant all year, 9 months of the year, and then tax season rolls around and they start hiring people and they're getting all these, and we're working with them to get them all updated and get them ready to go for the next season. But because of that, their business goes through cycles. I know lots of businesses have times of the year that are very busy, or they can go through a lot of rapid growth, or they may need to be able to take some kind of a step and see if it's going to work. And if it doesn't work, they need to be able to pull back again without investing too much.
So that scalability on demand, like I mentioned earlier, the sliders, you can increase horsepower, you can increase hard drive capacity, you can increase memory capacity. Depending on the needs of your business at any given moment, you can scale up, you can scale down, okay? If you need to add a software to it real quick, like let's say you've got a software that needs to run and you need to run this in the cloud, you can bring it up within a couple minutes. And then when you're done with it, bring it back down. Okay.
But I know that if I have a server right here, I can always plug a hard drive into the back of it. I can drag everything over and I can stick that in my safe at home. I can drive it home. And if anything happens to that, I know at least I've got that thing in a safe. How do I do that if Microsoft server's all the way over in Washington State?
Well, they're doing that for you. That's what you're paying for the service for the cloud for. So Microsoft is backing your server up. So let's say there's a fire, and like I mentioned, usually there's multi-site backups that they have in place for certain applications. Okay. But let's go to the basics. Let's say you're on Office 365. Okay. And their facility catches on fire where you're housed out of. Well, that's not good for Microsoft if that's where they keep all their data. They have distributed their data across multiple sites, so you're backed up somewhere else. Now, let's say you're driving home with your hard drive that you plugged into. Okay. And this is unlikely to happen, but let's say you get in a car accident. And you run out of the car, oh my goodness, it's on fire, and boom, your car goes up with your hard drive backup in there. Okay. And then you're like, that stinks. And then there's a big storm that strikes and fries your server at the same time.
Well, honestly, the bigger issue, I think, is people say they're going to take it home. And they do for a few weeks.
And then they just leave it plugged in.
Then it just gets plugged into the back and stays there.
So it's not something you have to worry about with the cloud. They're backing it up for you if something catastrophic did happen, or if it was as simple as your server's acting up a little bit. Bringing it down, putting it back into the cloud takes minutes, half an hour, maybe an hour, depending on if you have to rebuild the server, versus, holy cow, the whole physical server at my site is underwater, and now I've got to buy another $15,000 server.
Well, and I would imagine too that as a business owner, if your business is flooded, you've got other things you're worrying about too, on top of the software and everybody else being able to get their job done or not, right?
That's true.
So it's one less thing to worry about when it's in the cloud. I think though we should also talk about whether it is safe or not to trust the cloud. What do you think?
We get this so much. I don't trust the cloud. I don't want anything to go through the cloud. Okay, you just sent that to me in an email. That's that again.
You just use the cloud to tell me you don't use the cloud?
Okay. What documents are you sending to clients through email? Okay. The cloud is more secure than your actual on-site computer. They're doing more to keep your drives, your documents, your emails, your financial information all secure than you are, and I can assure you that they're doing more than you are with your, password 123 as your password. Okay. Right.
Now I'm going to change my password. You just announced it.
Do you? Yeah. Mine's like, it's not password 123.
I was about to do password 1234.
Now I got to change mine.
So the encryption means that they are locking everything down. Even if someone were able to hack their way in, we know that they have actually encrypted everything. And while I know it isn't that hard to encrypt stuff on hard drives, most people don't do it. Most people are not. That's not the thing that they're actually worrying about doing. or taking the time to figure out how to do it.
Well, it's even a little scary. I did that with one of my home computers. I put on the Microsoft built-in version.
The BitLocker.
The BitLocker. And it's like, okay, here, print this key off in case you ever need it and store the key on this flash drive.
Because if you lose it.
Yeah, then you're done. And I'm like, well, that's a little scary.
Yes. There's no coming back.
There's no coming back from this. And, these are pictures and videos of my kids. I'm like, well, let's not do that. Let's just put it somewhere in the cloud.
Where we know that it is going to be encrypted already for us.
And it's
like
there.
That.
So I don't have to worry about that.
But if it's pictures of your video and videos of your family and your vacations and your kids and everything, do you not worry that, yes, okay, it's encrypted, but how do you make sure that it stays your data and not it doesn't show up in somebody else's photo album somewhere?
Sure. So when you're using a paid service, and again, if you're putting your photos out there and you're using free cloud, things like that, that's not something I would really recommend. If you read a lot of these end-user licensing agreement, they have the right to review your data and use your data and things like that. And some of it is really scary stuff, okay? I would really encourage you. I mean, cloud data now is pretty cheap on the personal side.
Yes.
I think it's a couple dollars. I pay
couple bucks.
$4 a month,
same.
And I get 2 terabytes of data, and Google's been trying to get me off that for, I don't know, 6 years, because I've had it since it started.
For forever, yeah.
Okay. But pay for it, okay? It's your data, and make sure that you're changing your password, and actually add multi-factor authentication for some of that stuff as well, to make sure that no one figures out your password, because your password is still going to be your most vulnerable point of failure. Okay, if someone can guess your password, get into your cloud drive, things like that, they're still able to get in, regardless if it's encrypted or not.
Yeah, there was that famous hack where a lot of celebrities had their personal photos exposed to the internet.
Yep.
And I know they talked about it being a big hack, but really all it was them using their own passwords to get into their own cloud accounts.
Absolutely.
So that is a downside, of course, is the fact that because it is available everywhere, that also means it's available everywhere.
Right.
So you have to make sure you're using good security of your own.
Right.
Right. Not using your Netflix password that you've shared with all of your family and you're not supposed to, but then using that also to secure all of your private things in the cloud.
It's exactly why I don't keep Speedo pictures of myself on my iPhone.
That's a good, I'm with you on that one.
Absolutely.
I think I agree with you. That's a good idea. So, Jason, I think we've done a good job here talking about, you've explained why it's a little more secure than maybe people think. And actually, the fact is that while it's a different pricing model for how you're paying for it, I remember when Adobe first came out with their subscription, and everybody was upset because now Photoshop and Illustrator and all those, now you're just gonna have to pay every month, and people are upset. But when you sit down and do the math on it, it used to cost like $1,800 for their suite, and you'd have to buy it every 2 years.
Right.
And when you actually do the math, you end up saving $500 by going with the subscription model. But people still got very upset by that idea.
Yeah, and you don't have to learn the nuances of the new Creative Suite or anything like that.
Right.
The features roll out, and then if something's not right, they can also adjust them on the fly.
So that's a great example of a business being able to harness the cloud then, is that we used to spend $1,800 every 2 years to get the latest version of Adobe, whatever, that came out. But now instead we can just use the cloud version that they have. With that, I know that you could do things like you can store some of your documents there, or you can even have it do some of the hard work on their servers for you with all your stuff. That's just one example on the Adobe side. But I know from working in IT on the getting business done side, this has shifted massively to the cloud in the last few years.
Absolutely. And you no longer have to buy the latest and greatest Office 3 or Microsoft Office, because those weren't cheap either.
Yes, that's right. Couple $100 for a CD at Best Buy.
Like, I just bought 2008. Now I got to buy 2009. What features? They got rid of Clip It. I'll take it.
well, and then if you look at the CD too, it would tell you this is only for one computer, right? But of course, lots of people would then go and install it on a couple of machines, and then you're risking getting in trouble with Microsoft.
So we've talked a lot about the cloud and how it can benefit your business. Every business is a little different. If you want to learn more about harnessing the cloud for your business and your particular use case, here at BitWizards, that's what we do.
Yes.
Absolutely.
In fact, I think we have a unique skill set in that we can come in and work with your organization specifically to say, how can your business benefit from the cloud? Because it's not one size fits all. And I think sometimes people think of the cloud as if it were like a product, but it's more of a platform. It's something you get to build on, and we can build your business on the cloud. We can do things like automation. Where when this happens, we make sure that it kicks off a series of emails, or when someone uploads a thing or fills out a form, that it informs all of the right people who need to know. There's lots of power already in there, right? In a lot of those tools, and that we oftentimes are able to identify areas where a company may be spending too much money by trying to keep old stuff running in their building.
Okay, well, it looks like we've got a couple questions here. Bruce is asking, Sam,
Okay.
is there anything I need to do to prepare my business for cloud migration?
Oh, that is a good question. Yes, like most things in life, you're definitely going to want to prepare. That's the key to success.
Like a Boy Scout.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, always be prepared.
Always be prepared.
But the key thing here is I liken this, when we're going from on-prem to the cloud, whatever fashion that looks like, this is like when you're moving house. This is an opportunity to stop and take stock and sort of reevaluate some things. And the reason I say that is most people's files have been building up slowly and slowly and slowly over as long as the company has been around, or your financial software, or your spreadsheets, whatever that is. And now, when it comes time to actually clean all of that up, man, where do you even start? Especially if the person who started all of this isn't even at the company anymore, right?
Right.
Well, you know, when we're cleaning up a house, we may ask ourselves, we pick up an item and say, before I move, does this spark joy? And then we throw it away. In the IT space, when we move into the cloud, we pick up an object and we say, will this land me up in jail if I delete this? And then we decide not to delete those files. So part of moving to the cloud is figuring out what your regulations are, what policies you have to have, what you have to hang on to legally. And then we figure out a way to archive everything else that you don't need to hang on to. And then to prepare, that's what you do to prepare, is start figuring out what's old, what's critical, and what can be safely archived, and then we move the rest of it to the cloud. The only other piece I would say that most people forget, communication. Tell your people ahead of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just don't do this. Just don't, decide one weekend, hey, let's go to the cloud, guys. Because it's going to cause issues on Monday.
Right. When everybody comes to work and tries to do their job and you tell them,
Where
sorry,
did the file go?
it's all in the cloud.
Where's the cloud?
Yes. So that's a great question, Bruce. I think the best thing you could do is start to get your house in order a little bit, but really start prepping that, laying that groundwork in the conversation that things are going to be changing a little bit here, but this is for the best overall. So let me ask you this. Maybe you can field this one. Jason, Robert messaged here and he asked, do we have a specific cloud provider we would recommend? Maybe you could tell us about some of the cloud providers that are out there.
Well, again, if you remember from earlier in our video, we were talking about different types of cloud providers. So, most of the time people think, well, what cloud should I choose? And they're thinking, well, what cloud drive should I choose? Should I be a Google Drive? Should I be a OneDrive? Should I, have my own personal cloud, which is possible?
Right.
But there, each one has its merits. What I will tell you is always look to see what they're doing with your data. Okay. And remember, if it's free, it's probably not the best thing. Spend a couple dollars a month.
Yep.
Get a little bit more security with your cloud. Now, here at BitWizards, we are a Microsoft shop. We use Microsoft OneDrive. We trust it, but we also make sure that we have multi-factor authentication, that we have we set our passwords differently, complex, because really all of our information, all my documents and everything are on my OneDrive.
Yeah.
Same with my personal stuff. I use my OneDrive at home. It's really nice. It's built into the cloud, but I've also got a Google Drive that I've been using since Google Drive came out. I think it was G Drive back in the day.
Back in the day.
Now, if you're talking about, a big data center cloud, there's really two main players here. It's going to be Microsoft Azure or Amazon Web Services. Now, it's two different flavors. It's like Pepsi Coke. Okay, they each have their pluses, their minuses. One has too much sugar, one doesn't. Okay, but they both essentially do the same thing. Again, being a Microsoft shop, we always tend to go with Microsoft Azure, but we know their security protocols where experts at Microsoft Azure. That doesn't mean that if someone came to us with an AWS question problem, things like that, we certainly would be able to help them. So it really comes down to personal preference. Sometimes it's whatever promotion they're running at that time.
That's also true, yes. We have found in business environments, usually Microsoft has the correct business solution, especially on their cloud platform of products, because it's more than just where do you store your files and where do you put your email, but that whole Office 365, that whole Azure environment that Microsoft has provided is really to try to bring the scale of enterprise, these ginormous corporations and DoD contractors and national names that you know, household names, that they're saying, let's take that level of security, let's take that level of reliability and availability of your stuff, and let's make it available for everybody at a price that you can afford, even if you've only got 2 or 3 people in your business.
Well, that actually brings us to another question that we have here.
Okay.
So I have, let's see here, I just saw it here. Karen's asking, how do I know if my business is too small to benefit from the cloud?
Oh, yeah, that's actually, I think, almost a trick question, because I think the smaller your business is, the easier it is going to be for you to adopt cloud technologies. And the reason why is because when you have 300 employees and you've got to make a small change to the way the email signatures are going to work, man, that's a 4-week communication plan, right?
Yep.
The smaller your business is, actually, the easier it is to get plugged into the cloud right away and start benefiting from those, from all of those security features and enhancements. I would say even if you are a single person and this is just you and your Etsy shop, you should absolutely get your business into Office 365. Get your email protected. Get your files stored somewhere where you can access them when you need them. They're going to be there when you need them, and you know nobody else is getting into them either.
Yeah, actually, and it's great because the cloud is scalable as well. So if you do hire another employee, 2 employees, 3 employees, it's so much easier to just add them to your cloud, get them set up with Office 365, than to try to migrate a huge team. Because if you need a migration, that's really what we specialize in. But setting it up from the get-go, much like we did here at BitWizards, to be cloud-centric is going to benefit your business in the long run.
The question that came up here, just popped up that I saw is, and I think you may be able to answer this best. Your role is solution consultant here. You direct all of our solution consulting. So could you tell me some of the solutions that we've done in the past here at BitWizards? Maybe some of the cloud migrations, or where we've enabled businesses to really take advantage of the power of the cloud that they're already paying for.
Absolutely. So when a client, and I'll just give the general answer to begin with, when a client becomes a managed IT client of ours, a prospect, if you will, becomes a client, we migrate them and their whole business to the cloud. We migrate them to Office 365. They get put into OneNote. They get their SharePoint set up. All of that is cloud. So if they've got an on-site server or they're using webmail or anything like that, we're going to take all of that, we're going to standardize it for them. That's really the baseline of what our business is. We're going to get them into the cloud right away so it becomes scalable, becomes easy to manage, things like that.
That's all of the managed IT clients.
All of the managed IT clients. Okay. Then we also have some of our other clients who have, let's say, on-site servers and things like that. And they want to do what's called a lift and shift sometimes, or a cloud migration.
So they're going to take the existing servers and software that they have running in the databases and all of the applications, and of course that means all the networking stuff that goes with it, and somehow figure out how we're going to get that from there and move it into the cloud without actually changing anything in the process.
Seamlessly, by the way. Okay. So some of these are, ERM software, Epicor, things like that. That run their business, that run their inventory, that run their accounting, that's running on a physical server at their location. Or it could be that they're in a shared space, a shared data center, or something like that. And that equipment is starting to get old, or it's just not accessible, it's slow. They're going, you know what, let's just get this into the cloud. So we'll actually take that server and we do our little magic and we figure out how that server works, and we'll put that server into the cloud so they can access it wherever they are. Access their Epicor. It runs just like it's right down the street,
Well,
or
I
right
believe
downstairs.
I'm familiar with the project you're talking about, where we took the Epicor servers and we moved them into the cloud exactly as they were. I recall that, but it actually made me think. Just recently, we did something with them that we would not have been able to do if it wasn't for the cloud, and that was that they wanted to roll out the newest version of Epicor.
Right.
Now, you probably know this. Every time Microsoft comes up with a new update, you got to like fingers crossed and like, what are they going to break this time, right? And it's not just Microsoft. All of the programs, they're like QuickBooks doesn't look anything like it looked like when I was using it a few years ago. And so the same with this ERP software. Like we could just try to upgrade it and freak everybody out, but then we've got to do it where we are, and if anything goes wrong, then we're down. Yep. Instead, we were able to spin up all new servers in the cloud, install the new version of Epicor, test it out without it affecting anybody at all, and the company didn't have to buy any hardware. They didn't have to put any money up front on any of this at all. In fact, we were able to spin up this whole test environment, and then once they confirmed, hey, this is looking great, everything is working exactly as expected, all the bugs have been ironed out, all we had to do then was flip a switch to turn off the old servers in the cloud, and now the new ones are running, and there was a seamless transition for them. We wouldn't have been able to do that if they were still running everything on servers.
Absolutely. And it sometimes, we get to do some fun things as well. We get to play with money. And so we just helped a client out whose data center actually got in a little bit of trouble. We won't say who that client is, but they needed to move to the cloud very quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. So we had to take their full server environment. We're talking 6, 7 different servers. And these are people's credit cards, their checking accounts, and things like that needed to make sure that they were going to continue on, their transactions were going to continue processing through this. And we were able to get them moved up, click over instantly. So they're able to continue doing business. Their clients, their customers, everyone can continue with their financial transactions.
And that it was seamless to the end users. They didn't even notice.
Seamless to the end users.
Interesting.
Anything I'm missing? Anything that you...
Well, I know we've done some very cool projects where like the companies that do the traffic monitoring on the road.
Oh, yeah, that was a fun one.
Yep, where a company approached us about it, and we're asking specifically, the devices that were measuring and monitoring the traffic were generating more data than their internet bandwidth could even handle.
Right.
And so instead of doing a local solution that they had, we said, let's figure out how we can make this global by moving it into Azure. And then their Indian teams, where their analysts in India were able to start accessing video footage and start doing all kinds of analytics before it had even finished uploading. It was amazing.
Yep, and that's actually a pretty cool success story for us as well, because we helped get them, and this was revolutionary stuff at the time, get them standardized, get this working for them, and actually became very attractive to a much larger company.
Yes, that's right.
Much larger company that walked in and go, holy cow, how are you guys doing this? And we're like, hi, we had something to do with it.
Well, and let me say also, I think one of your specialties when you're talking with businesses is something we've done quite a lot, and that is consolidation projects in the cloud. So let's say, and I know you've dealt with this in a number of instances, but where a company is buying up other companies, or they've brought in other companies under their umbrella, but the problem is you've got different branding and different ways of operating, different email systems, and how do you bring all of those together?
Right.
Well, your solution has always been very cloud-based, right? When dealing with when dealing with these types of projects.
Absolutely. Well, that looks like we've got all our questions answered. Sam, do you have any additional thoughts? Give anyone else that might have any questions to ask?
Well, I like that we've titled this Harnessing the Power of the Cloud, because the cloud is already there, and I'm pretty sure you're already using it even if you're not aware of it.
Right.
But the point is, there's so much that is available to you in your business to secure your business. And you may not be worrying about security, but to make it available to your employees and to your customers whenever they need it, and to also make it resilient too.
Absolutely. And what I would say in closing is that if you can think it in the cloud, it can happen. You know, most things that you think that, that would be pretty cool to operate somewhere, come to BitWizards. We're happy to listen and see what your dreams are of how you want to take advantage and harness the power of the cloud.
Absolutely, yeah. We love finding solutions for issues that are in the cloud. So if you come to us with the problem you're facing, the specific challenge you're trying to overcome, you can chat with Jason, and I'm sure we'll find a way to harness the power of the cloud for you.
So if you do have any questions about harnessing the power of the cloud, you want to just chit-chat about what the cloud can do for you and your business, please feel free to give BitWizards a call. We're always happy to help.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.